everyone, welcome! In today's video, we're embracing the cozy vibes of fall with some fun and easy crafting projects. We will be creating beautiful autumn decorations and festive accents for your tiered tray. Hi, my name is Katie from Lady Red Crafting. Let's get started and make this fall truly special. So the Dollar Tree did it again and has these cute little rolling pens for the fall season. Now, while they're cute the way they are, I am going to transform this into something that's more my style. So we're starting out by using my zip sander here, and I'm just going to sand off all of those sparkles. Next, I'm just going to remove the handles so that we can refresh those in a little bit. The last thing to do is to flip this over, and we need to remove that sticker. If you haven't been able to remove stickers in the past, and what I have found that works really well is taking a small spatula, and I use my heat tool, but a hairdryer would work just fine. And it just softens up that glue on the back side of that sticker. And I just use that little spatula and scrape the sticker off. If you don't have one of these spatula tools from Cricut, a scraping tool from the hardware store would work just as well. Now, once that sticker is removed, I grab my zip sander again and I just sand off any extra glue that might be on there and just make sure everything's nice and smooth. Next, I'm going to set this down on a paintable surface, and I use a little bit of painter's tape to tape this down so it doesn't move around too much. Now, using my Waverly chalk paint in the color Truffle, we're going to do a nice coat over the top of this rolling pen. And for this project, I did decide to paint the sides all the way around using my truffle colored paint. Now, while that piece is drying, I did grab my Agave Waverly chalk paint, and we're going to paint both of these handles. So this season, I did upgrade some of my stencils, and this one I did get on Amazon, and I love how this one turns out. So I will put a link for it in my description box below, but we're going to take our Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster and this stencil, and we're going to stencil over the top of that truffle colored paint. If you haven't used these stencils before, they are self-adhesive, and then when you're done using them, you just wash them and replace them back onto the piece of paper that they came with. For this project, I decided to use my chalk paint instead of paste, and I'm just going to use a sponge brush and dab that over the top of the stencil until it's completely covered. Now, while the paint is still wet, we'll go ahead and remove the stencil. After that dries completely, we'll go ahead and flip the rolling pen over. And using our Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, we're going to go ahead and give a nice coat of paint over the top of this. Grabbed another one of my stencils out of my stash, and this one I got last year on Amazon, but it is still available, so I'll link it for you below. Now, I'm not going to do the stencil the way it's traditionally done. I'm going to start out by just doing the hello, and then I'll pull the stencil off, and then I'll do the fall after that. So I'm going to take some painter's tape here, and I'm just going to cover up the parts of the stencil that I don't want to use, just so I am not accidentally painting that stencil onto my piece. Now let's grab my sponge brush, and using the Waverly chalk paint in the color Truffle, we'll go ahead and do this stencil. Now, after that piece has completely dried, I went and washed my stencil, and I'm going to go ahead and reapply the stencil. But you want to make sure that the hello is completely dry before you do this. We just repeat the same steps for the fall portion of the stencil. So when I did this second part of the stencil, I did not like how that fall turned out. So what I decided to do was I grabbed my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, and I just kind of did a little bit of touch-ups in the areas that I didn't like. And then I went back with my truffle paint as well and just kind of hand painted that F on the fall. Now, for a previous project, I took apart this garland from the Dollar Tree, and I had taken those pumpkins and used them to put inside of a truck. But I had some extra pumpkins, and I thought this project would be perfect to add a little pumpkin right next to Hello Fall. And be careful when you're hot gluing metal, it does get a little bit warm, so I use that makeup applicator just to make sure I don't burn myself. Next, I'm going to take a little bit more hot glue and I'm going to reapply my handles to our rolling pin. And now for our last step, I have two cute raffia bows. These are just shoelace string bows. And I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue them on one side. And then I'm going to flip my rolling pin over, and on the exact same side of the rolling pin, we'll hot glue the other ribbon. And wow, I just love how this little rolling pin turns out. It's going to be such a fun addition to our tiered tray. And if you're enjoying this content, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. It really helps my channel grow. Thank you so much. So I walked by this adorable hedgehog at the Dollar Tree, and I just loved it. However, I went through the whole entire box, and I couldn't find one that didn't have some sort of defect to it. So I found the best looking one, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to paint this over again and make it my own so that I have a really cute hedgehog for the fall season. And since this hedgehog is made out of a hard plastic, I am going to use my Paint for Plastic by Folk Art to do the painting for him. And I will link these Paint for Plastic paints in my description box below, just in case you're interested in them. So now time to paint this little hedgehog. I start out by just painting everything on the back side of him with the dark brown paint. And this is just, it's such an easy thing to do, but you can already tell how much different it looks once you're done painting him. And I found these cute hedgehogs the other day at, I believe it was Home Goods, and they were like $14.99 a piece. So giving this little $1.25 hedgehog a facelift will save you some money, but give you that decor piece that is in style for this season. Now for the fur on the front side of this hedgehog, I am going to take my cream color Paint for Plastic with a little bit of the brown, and I just mix that up until I get a color that I like. And then I'm just going to paint everything on the front side of this hedgehog. While we're painting this adorable hedgehog, I want to tell you all about the playlist I'm a part of this month, Everything Fall. I co-host this every other month with Lisa from Our Gray House, and our guest host this month is I'm Merrily Melissa. This playlist is linked in the bottom in my description box below, and I've linked the hosts as well. I'd love for you to check them out, let them know that I sent you over so you can see their fun fall videos. Thank you again for watching, and back to our video. And now for some of the finishing touches on our hedgehog. I'm using the color Iced Tea for the pumpkin here. At first I thought about making the pumpkin like a light blue or turquoise to go better with my tray, but I really like the idea of the orange pumpkin, so I stuck with that. But you can do whatever you guys would like to do for your hedgehog and make it match your decor. And after I painted the eyes and the mouth again with the black colored paint, I just went back in and I needed to get the top of the pumpkin. So I did have a green paint for here, but it was really green. So I did add a lot of brown to that just to kind of tone it down to make it look more like a pumpkin stem. Now here is our finished little hedgehog. I think he turned out amazing. And I'm going to do a little bit of a before and after here. So here is our before picture. And here is our after picture. I just love how this hedgehog turned out. He totally stole my heart, and I cannot wait to display him as my masterpiece on this tiered tray, because he definitely is my favorite of the day. Let's make some mini pumpkins. I recently discovered Woodpecker Crafts, and I am in love with these little spindles that they have. And they come in a 10-pack, and I'll leave a link in my description box below.
These things are amazing. And I'm going to take one of these spindles and I'm going to use these cutters. And these cutters are from the garden center at the Dollar Tree, and they work really well to cut different things. So we're going to make two cute little stems that look a little bit different because of the way that the knob is in the middle of that spindle. Now I grabbed my zip sander just to sand off any little rough edges that there might be from my cut. Next, I'm going to grab these wood cubes that I found at the Dollar Tree, and these are adorable. So if you see them at the Dollar Tree, grab them. You can do so many fun things with them. But for this project, we're going to make pumpkins. So I'm taking a drill and a 1/4-inch drill bit, and I'm just going to drill a little hole in the center of our cube. And these cubes are hollow, so they're very easy to drill. But if you're nervous about drilling these, I do have a second way of making these later on in the video to show you. Now with that hole drilled, I want to do a fit check just to make sure that that spindle fits nicely into that hole, and it does fit perfectly. So we are all ready to start doing our decorating for these pumpkins. So one of the cubes, I'm going to go ahead and stain with my Waverly Antique Wax. And for my second cube, I'm going to take my Delta White metallic paint and I'm going to paint that white. Now for that third cube, this is the cube that I didn't put a hole in. We're going to just stain that with the Waverly Antique Wax. Once that's completely stained, I'm going to whitewash it a little bit with the Waverly Plaster Paint. Now that we have our 3 blocks or pumpkins ready to go, let's go ahead and work on our stems. We have the spindle that we cut in half earlier, and this little peg here I got from the Dollar Tree in the Crafter Square section. These are so fun. So I'm going to go ahead and stain a few of these pegs using my antique wax. And then for the last little peg, I am going to use my satin finish black multi-surface paint. And I changed my mind with the peg from the Dollar Tree, and I went ahead and I covered up that antique wax with my Waverly Truffle paint. No, I couldn't just leave the last one alone, so I took my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster and I whitewashed the spindle that was done with the antique wax. And now here is all 3 of our stems ready to go. Let's put these little pumpkins together. For our first pumpkin here, we're going to take some wood glue and a little bit of hot glue, and this is how we're going to attach the stem since we did not drill a hole for this one. And now once our stem is attached, all I'm going to do is take a little bit of hot glue and I'm adding a little raffia bow to accessorize. Now for our next little pumpkin, I'm using the white metallic pumpkin and I'm taking a little bit of hot glue and just adding that to the top of the hole. And then we're just going to insert that spindle in, and it fits really tight in there. You might not even need to use the hot glue, but I just wanted to be sure. After that, I do a little bit more hot glue and add a small black bow, and this pumpkin is complete. It's very chic and fun. And for our farmhouse pumpkin here, we're just going to add a little bit of hot glue, add that spindle, and then there is a cute little bow that we put on the top there that's white and black, and a little twine bow as well, just to give it a little bit more dimension. And now our third little pumpkin is complete. And here is all of our pumpkins all done up. I think these turned out fabulous. These would be a wonderful addition to your tiered tray, a shelf sitter, placed around the kitchen, around other pumpkins. These are just so much fun and elegant. And if you're enjoying this content, don't forget to hit that like button below. Thanks! Now, who doesn't love a great wood bead garland? And this garland I found at the Dollar Tree, and they are keeping up with all the new styles and trends by adding the mushrooms.
However, I really wasn't into the orange. So what I'm going to do here is I'm taking some painter's tape and I'm just going to tape around each one of these mushrooms and we're going to paint these a different color. I decided to paint these with my Tuscan Teal Apple Barrel paint. I thought that this blue would go really well with some of my other decor pieces, especially the ones that I wanted to put on my tiered tray. And once I get this first mushroom covered with some of that blue paint, I go ahead and repeat the step on the other mushrooms on this strand of garland. And now that we have all of our mushrooms painted, I grab my burnt umber from Apple Barrel, and I'm just taking a little skewer here, and it's been well used. I keep them in my craft room to do painting on beads. And I'm just going to paint all of the orange beads with that burnt umber paint. And I did find that using my heat tool helped out a lot with getting this done pretty quickly. But if you don't have a heat tool, a hairdryer works just fine, or you can just set these skewers in a cup and let them dry in the air. And now once you have all of your beads complete, I'm going to take that same Apple Barrel paint, burnt umber, and I'm using the back side of a paintbrush, and I'm going to put little spots all over my mushrooms. And now that we have all of our mushrooms complete, the last step is to remove that little strand of orange on the end of our garland. So I'm just going to cut that off, and I'll save that tassel for a future project. And I'm using some ribbon here, and this ribbon I got at Walmart. It is one of my favorite ribbons to use for the fall. It's very rustic, and I'm just going to tie a knot around the end there. And I do this twice just to make sure that it stays onto our strand, and that will be my tassel for this one. But you could make a tassel if you'd like using some twine, or add different color ribbons, or make yourself some sort of charm to put on the end. But this I thought looked really nice and just delicate. And I love how this garland turns out. The trendy mushrooms and the colors, they just pop. I would love to know what you think. Would you add mushrooms to your decor? Let me know in the comments below. Let's start out with a wood ornament from the Dollar Tree, and this one is in the shape of a maple leaf. Now I'm going to set this down on a paintable surface, and I'm using some painter's tape to put underneath that leaf just to make sure it doesn't move around on me. Next, I grab my Waverly chalk paint in the color Truffle, and we're going to paint our leaf. Now, once that first side of the leaf is painted, I am going to flip this right over and paint the other side as well. Now, while that leaf is drying, I grabbed a tumbling block, and I'm just going to set that down on a paintable surface. And while we have that truffle paint out, we'll go ahead and paint that tumbling block. Let's go back to that leaf. I grabbed my multi-surface folk art paint, and this is vintage white, and it is a satin finish, which gives it just a little bit of sheen. Next, I have this fun stencil that I got this year on Amazon, and I will place a link for that in my description box below, but it came with like 6 or 8 stencils for like $6.99, and I really like this one. Now, once we've centered the thankful in the center of our leaf, I'm going to take some painter's tape and I'm going to cover up the other words. Now, using a foam brush, I'm going to just lightly pounce over the top of our stencil until that is completely filled in. And now, the best part, taking that stencil off and seeing our beautiful thankful. But I did get a little bit of extra paint there, so we're going to just touch that up with some of our truffle paint and make this look perfect. Now, once everything is completely dry on this side of our leaf, we can flip it over and start on the next side. I recently got these plaid tips from Plaid as an ambassador, and I had not tried them yet, so I wanted to try them out on this leaf. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this tip on top of my paint bottle here, and I'm going to test it out to see how well it writes. And once I was satisfied with my tip, I went ahead and I just painted some little stitches all around my leaf. And now this next step I forgot to get on camera, but I did add a little raffia bow on both sides of my leaf to cover up the hole. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab that tumbling block that we painted earlier, and I'm going to position it on the back side of my leaf, and we're just going to hot glue that into place so that way it will allow my leaf to stand up on my tiered tray. One of the things that I really like about this craft is it's easy to do, but can be a lot of fun for any season. Now for the final reveal, here is our adorable little leaf. It is all ready to go on the shelf or on a tiered tray. And if you're enjoying these crafts, feel free to leave a leaf down in the comments below to let me know you're still here. Thanks! Now here's a really quick bonus mini craft. I love these pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. I thought these looked amazing. But when I was looking at them with my daughter, she told me that I needed to paint the stems, that they were not the right color. So I grabbed my burnt umber paint from Apple Barrel, and I'm just going to paint these stems and give them a little bit of an elevated look. And once we have both of our pumpkin stems painted, I went ahead and I grabbed my Waverly chalk paint in the color white, and we're just going to do a quick dry brush over the top of it, and that just kind of blends them in with the pumpkin. That's all I needed to do for these pumpkins. I really just liked how these ones looked, but you could paint them any color you'd like to match your decor. Now here is everything all displayed on a tiered tray. I hope you enjoyed these fall craft projects as much as I did. And if you're looking for more fun and creative craft ideas, be sure to check out our next video. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, craft more, stress less.